I, the Lord of sea and sky, I have heard my people cry, all who dwell in dark and sin, my hand will save. I who made the stars of night, I will make their darkness bright. Who will bear my light to them? Whom shall I send? Here I am, Lord. Is it I, Lord? I have heard you calling in the night. I will go, Lord, if you lead me. I will hold your people in my heart.
Good afternoon once again, and welcome to the second episode of the Democratic Party of Trinidad and Tobago Speaks, the DPTT Speaks. Tonight we are talking about why you should vote for the Democratic Party, why there are no other choices. Of all those people that are contesting the general election in this 2015 general election, we are saying to you that the only real choice is the Democratic Party of Trinidad and Tobago. And in the next 30 minutes, we're going to explain to you why that option is the only option for the voters of Trinidad and Tobago. There is a school of thought that says, look at Trinidad and Tobago, look at all the development that we've had over the years, and then you realize that you shouldn't be criticizing the government. After all, you have the National Stadium, you have the new highways, you have a new airport. There are so many things that you can look around that you can see that's new, and that would demonstrate that over the years the governments have worked towards building a nation. We at the Democratic Party of Trinidad and Tobago say that is not so. We're saying that you have no choice but to vote the Democratic Party of Trinidad and Tobago, or else the decay that started since independence will continue. We intend to prove that to you. You see, it is very easy. It's very easy for governments to spend money. So if you build a new airport, it's a lot of money that you're spending. If you build a new power plant, it's a lot of money that you're spending. If you're building overpasses, it's a lot of money that you're spending. And one of the things that we know for sure is that governments throughout the years have been able to spend a lot of money, billions of dollars, multi-million-dollar contracts, some locally, some internationally, so that you have stadium. We have stadia throughout our country. There are so many things that you can point to. Incogen plant, desalination plant. All of these are mega projects. The waterfront project, mega projects. So you would think that with all of this, why should the Democratic Party be complaining about development and so on? Because the governments of the past, whether it's the NAR, the UNC, or the PNM, have all contributed towards building a better nation. We are saying no. As a matter of fact, what we're saying is very simply that what governments have done is that they've gotten our hard-earned tax dollars, and through those mega projects, they have been able to siphon money off those mega projects for personal gain. In the meantime, while they're doing that, they have supervised the destruction of Trinidad and Tobago. Our infrastructure have been deteriorating since 1962, and so are our institutions. Let's take, for example, the main things that one look at in a developed country. The administration buildings, starting with the president's house. Look at the president's house today. Over the years, the ground should be kept, should be well maintained. Periodically, people should be repairing the roof, repairing the air conditioning, repairing the electricity, painting the walls. That's what people do in terms of maintaining a building. That's how you have buildings in other countries in the world that are over 100, 200 years old. So that's why I'm saying to you, but when we inherited this wonderful piece of architecture called the President's House, we allowed it to deteriorate to the point where the roof fell in. So that today, what you have as the President's House is another mega project going on to repair the President's House. So let's say perhaps that was a mistake. Perhaps someone forgot to maintain the President's House. Well, what happens to the Prime Minister's office? Since the days of the Premier, before independence, Whitehall was the office of the Prime Minister. Today, Whitehall is a shadow of itself. It's no longer Whitehall. It might be cream or brown or green or mossy. The trees growing all over. The roof is leaking. It's a travesty to see what has happened to the office of the Prime Minister. So that now the Prime Minister is in an office building, an ordinary office building. Nothing that people can come around from around the world and say, let me go to the office of the Prime Minister and see this wonderful piece of architecture. That is the Whitehall. That's gone. But it did not stop there. Ladies and gentlemen, our Parliament over the years, the history of this country have been tied to the Parliament and the Red House. In 1962, when we gained independence, I'm sorry. In 1962, it was at the Red House that the Union Jack was taken down and our national flag went up. It was at the Red House that you had that first debate as an independent nation. So, how did we allow the Red House to be what it is today? And I tell you what, worse than that is the fact that it's taken another 7 or 8 years to repair the Red House, and it's still not repaired up to this day. The seat of our Parliament, this place that our first Prime Minister laid in state, this place that we looked at and say, wow, this is the seat of our Parliament, the seat of our government. This Red House, this wonderful place is now destroyed almost. A part of our history that we have been struggling for over 8 years to try to repair. Ladies and gentlemen, if you look at our Hall of Justice, you would see that this other piece of modern architecture is today facing the same fate of the Red House, Whitehall, and the President's House. We're looking at that concrete that's mossy, around the building, it's unkept. I'll tell you something that perhaps a lot of people don't know. At the financial complex, when the financial complex was built, they had aluminum tracks around the top of it, where you have hangers that people can put their hangers to do maintenance in terms of washing the buildings, in terms of maintaining the glass and so on. Today, most of that aluminum hangers, the tracks for those hangers, are no longer usable. So that it's almost impossible to service the building from the outside. All again because we have allowed our buildings to fall apart. And you might wonder, why is Alvarez talking about these buildings? And I want to talk about that because it is a reflection of how we have allowed our country to fall apart. We have spent a lot of money, done a lot of mega projects, but we have allowed our country to fall apart. So that when, for example, we decided that we're going to end the train, our mass transit system, a train, instead of modernizing the train system, instead of perhaps moving from a diesel locomotive to an electrical locomotive, instead of making a more efficient train service, we decided to get rid of it. But you know what we did? In addition to getting rid of the train, we destroyed the architecture as well. The main train station on South Quay, that beautiful building that is now Citygate, it's a disaster. Beautiful architecture is now covered with air-conditioned units on the outside. There's no national pride. Citygate is nothing like what a national hub is supposed to look like. But you know what also happened? On all of the train lines, with the exception of the bus route, which was the train line to Arima, on almost every other train line, we allowed people to squat on them. So that today, any desire or determination to have a new mass transit system, a new train system, would mean either asking all those people, paying them to leave the land where that was the train line, or seeking to purchase land to now run new tracks. Total disaster. So, ladies and gentlemen, I wanted to focus on the fact that we have allowed our infrastructure to fall apart, simply to show that when we took over this nation in 1962, instead of building a nation, we supervised the destruction of a nation. And to say to you that at this time in our history, we have to stop the decline. And that's why none of the other options are good options, because they've all been in government and they've all been responsible for this decay. You see, apart from the physical decay, there's been a decay in the structure of governance. As a little boy, we knew that every night there were police on patrol. See, we weren't very rich, and there was this show called Movie Night. And movie night starts at 10. It started at 10 and finished at 12. So we'd run away from home and go to the neighbor to look at this movie. But on the way back, we had to almost play hide and seek with the police to get home, because if they caught you out at that late, they would want to know, why are you on the street as a young man at this hour? We grew up knowing that the police were always on patrol. So when did it deteriorate to the point? And these police, ladies and gentlemen, they patrolled on foot and on bicycles. They had one police jeep in the area. And that police jeep was then the event that you had a call out. But they were all over on patrol. So when did it deteriorate to the level where now, in 2015, when you have an accident at the president's house, or close to the president's house, close to the prime minister's house, you call the police station and they say, I'm sorry, we can't respond right away because we have no vehicles. When did police patrol deteriorate to that level? So that today, the bandits are shooting people and walking away from the scene. They're not running away from the scene, they are strolling away with their gun smoking, picking up a car and leaving, because they know that the possibility of a police on patrol is remote. The deterioration in government not only happened in terms of policing, but also happened in the way we manage our communities. As a little boy, we inherited a system of government where sanitary inspectors would visit your yard. They would come to your home to check that you had proper drainage, so that you had a clean environment. And then they would sign off on that card if your home is okay. Today, that rarely happens. In school, there was always the visiting dental lab. There were always nurses visiting to check
that all the children in school were immunized. They were always ensuring that people had a decent meal in terms of biscuit and milk that was sent from UNICEF, I think it was, to ensure that at least the children had the basic nutrition. All of that is what we inherited. But more so, we inherited a system of county and wards where every community road signs, drainage was maintained within the community. As a little boy, I knew almost everyone by name that cleaned the drain on a daily basis, that maintained the road on a daily basis, and the guy that went around to make sure that every street sign was painted and repaired. Today, that sort of maintenance and that sort of service is non-existent. As a little boy, I remember going into the library, and the library always had the latest books. It was an exciting time to go to the library. There are communities right now in Trinidad and Tobago where they do not have access to a library. So don't, while you're all loving your party and you want to see your party in government, I am saying for Trinidad and Tobago's sake, for your children's sake, for generations to come, we cannot allow this decay to continue. We can't allow people to go into the forest and cut whatever trees they want, hunt whenever they want, and plant marijuana plantations whenever they want, and set trap guns whenever they want, because the government don't have forest rangers on patrol. We inherited a system where if you needed to go into the forest to cut a tree, the forest ranger had to go in there and sign off on the tree that this tree is authorized to be cut. Those things are all gone. So like the buildings, we have allowed the governance of Trinidad and Tobago to deteriorate. Healthcare, deteriorate. Services. The warden office was an instrumental part of all of that, where people go to the warden office to pay their land taxes, to pay their building taxes. Today, you have to get to Port of Spain. All of the services that we inherited have been destroyed. And while we have been doing that, we are patting ourselves on the back and spending billions of dollars. Today I am worried, and the reason why I'm here pleading with you to join with us, to go into your community and say, I want to support the Democratic Party. I want somebody in my community to go up as the representative in my area for the Democratic Party of Trinidad and Tobago. The reason why you need to do that is because I would like my children and your children to be able to go into our oceans and scuba dive and see the corals that I saw when I first scuba dived. We can stop the decay on our reefs. We can stop the decay on our forests. All the wonderful times that I've spent hiking on our mountain ranges, I want your children and my children to be able to have that experience as well. I would love for your children and my children and generations to come to have the freedom to go on a weekend and camp out at night, knowing that there's a patrol, a government patrol nearby that's going to ensure that they're safe. So ladies and gentlemen, we've talked about the fact that these people, that all those people who are asking you for your vote in this 2015 election are not able to take us to where we need to go. We're now going to talk to you about the exciting things that we are going to do to take care of the governance of Trinidad and Tobago. Ladies and gentlemen, over 25 years as a project manager in the United States of America and in Trinidad and Tobago, I have built hospitals, office buildings, homes, and a lot of other warehouses and stuff like that. And I can tell you from my experience that within 2 years, we can restore the President's House, the White Hall, and the Red House. Within 1 year, we'd have the outside and inside of the Hall of Justice in pristine condition. And within 6 months, we'll have all this infrastructure in place to ensure that the Twin Towers can once again be serviced properly. Those things we can and will do within the first 2 years of a DPTT government. But where it's exciting is in the institutions themselves. Ladies and gentlemen, I spoke about the destruction of our institutions. And you would recognize, although I spoke about the Red House, I did not speak about the institution of our parliament. Perhaps the Democratic Party and myself, we're trying to stay out of the bacchanal, and we don't want this campaign to deteriorate to that level. But you must agree that beyond what has happened recently in our parliament, and I don't want to refer to that, but so many times with our children looking on, we are seeing members of parliament making a mockery of this office. And that, ladies and gentlemen, must not happen anymore. Our parliament must be reflective of the standards that we in Trinidad and Tobago hold. Our children must look on and see a level of debate that is wonderful and refreshing and enlightening. What we will do also is that we ensure that one of the exciting things, apart from our communities having people to maintain them, is our forest ranger project. Ladies and gentlemen, all of those people, and I say all of them that are today having temporary employment through CPAP and URP, will be able to access permanent employment through our forest ranger projects. They can get to be forest rangers. At our next episode, we will go into detail to talk to you about our park ranger service that's going to excite our young people, excite people who are looking for permanent employment. We're going to talk about an employment program for the people of Trinidad and Tobago that's no longer going to be anything like CPAP and URP. No more people just building box drains and not being able to access a bank loan because they don't have permanent employment. The employment program for Trinidad and Tobago under the Democratic Party of Trinidad and Tobago is exciting, and I look forward to sharing that with you on the next episode of the DPTT Speaks. Until next time, tune in to the Democratic Party of Trinidad and Tobago, DPTT Speaks. Good night.